All right, what's next up? Because okay, we're going to cover this real quickly. So, recently there's been this weird censorship thing that's been going on. Moist Critical talked about it. Other content creators talked about it, but he's the most like probably well-known content creator that you probably heard about this. There has been a recent surge when it comes to um basically censorship when it comes to video games and stuff like that. You know, it's a tale as old as time. Video games, because boomers do not understand what a video game is, even though like boomers now, well, most boomers nowadays should have grown up with video games, but like I don't know if they're like 60 years old or whatever. I assume they probably didn't. But if they're 40 and under, like you can't be up here saying video games cause violence or whatever. Your young grown ass shouldn't be old enough to not know that video games don't do that. But regardless of the fact, always video games under fire when it comes to censorship on whether or not they are like causing people to do actions outside the video game. And recently a company decided to basically stop purchases or sort of like false flag purchases when it comes to certain like not safe for work material when it comes to video games. I'm not going to speculate too heavily on this because this group is like a pro women's rights group or what have you, based in Australia, which kind of teeters into like some weird territory that I don't want to get into, and I don't want to like bring that audience into this video or whatever. So we're not going to focus on that group in of itself, but censorship has been a problem regardless when it comes to video games, and how far does censorship goes or whatever. There was a game called No Mercy and a bunch of other games that are like weird edgelord bullshit where you like sexually assault people and do weird shit. And should that exist? Hell no, that's weird. Whoever made that game should be put on a list. Like, I think these games should solely exist as like a self-report system so we can find fucking offenders, because like there is no way in hell like I would ever be able to come up with that concept in my mind. Like, hey, let me make a game where you can sexually assault people, or that other game where you play as like a mass shooter or whatever, where your goal is just to kill everybody, as opposed to GTA where it's just like you can if you want to, but like there's missions and stuff here. keep on track. But I'm just saying, like, these games should exist solely just so I can spot the red flags and who we shouldn't be associating with. But that's besides the point. Games like No Mercy brought up red flags when it comes to censorship, and rightfully so. It's going too far, it's too extreme. But then it brings up like other gray area stuff, like other not safe for work stuff, like maybe tasteful nudity when it's like something like The Witcher or Mass Effect where there's like sex scenes, or Baldur's Gate where there's sex scenes or what have you, which totally exist in movies and stuff, and there's not a problem. They're rated properly, they're rated mature for people over the age of 18, so that shouldn't be a problem for you to have stuff like that, and other things that bring up sensitive issues as well in a tasteful manner, or in a manner that is more fitting towards the overall theme. Like Grand Theft Auto is a crime video game where there's like a narrative story involving you as a person that's trying to rise up in the criminal organization. So the idea of crime existing in the video game is appropriate for the video game. It's not like just violence for violence sake, like a game like the school shooter game or whatever. It's called Hatred, the Hatred game. So it's not like that. But it exists in this gray area where if you bring up this false flag of like, hey, this game has murder in it, you got to include also the other game that has murder in it. So that's why it becomes like a slippery slope when it comes to censorship. So that's why I kind of like handle it within a gray area. But we're going to look at this article real quick because just recently another game was removed from the search results, which is called Mouthwashing. And Mouthwashing handles like very sensitive subjects, but it does it in a tasteful way that is in a narrative sense or what have you. Your character, you basically play as a character who did some awful, terrible things, and it's sort of like this weird, like nightmare, hellscape narrative story, horror story, just like depicting this character in the worst light. Like, this character isn't the hero. This isn't like you are worshiping this guy or you should aspire to be this guy. It's like a very sucky game, and it makes you feel bad because you're playing as this guy who did terrible, awful things to his crewmates. And one of those things include like sexual assault and stuff like that. So again, you're seeing the slippery slope, but let's look at this article. So let's look at the original story. Due to pressure from payment processors and right-wing advocacy groups, the marketplace itch.io and Steam recently announced they would be delisting or de-indexing games that were perceived as not safe for work. Well, apparently intended to disrupt the production and marketing of adult content games, this move has already had much of a broader impact. The critically acclaimed horror game Mouthwashing has been de-indexed from itch.io, part of its suite. So for those of you guys that don't know, itch.io also got rid of No Mercy, which again is kind of like, take it as you will, but like they got rid of the game entirely because it was just too much. And then they are delisting or just removing Mouthwashing from the search results as a way to sort of probably get around this payment processing error, because they're not going to, this advocacy group is not going directly to itch.io complaining like, hey, get rid of this game. They're going directly towards payment processors. They're bypassing itch.io and going to the payment processors, just making it a further step more difficult for basically itch.io to run their business or what have you. Because what happens is, like, you purchase not safe for work game, Visa's like, hey yo, you shouldn't be doing that. They go to itch.io, there's like a whole like kerfuffle in the middle between itch.io and the payment processors, and it just becomes a big old hassle. It's basically, they are essentially like Karening the system. They're using the most annoying method possible to try to get these games removed. And it's just like, it sucks. And again, this is why I say this is like the slippery slope aspect, where it's just like, hey, this game is a narrative story telling a story about an evil person doing fucked up shit in a tasteful way. And when I say tasteful, in like a narratively tasteful way, where it's just not just doing terrible shit just to do terrible shit. It's like essentially like telling a narrative story that is important and probably needs to be told, and probably is one of the most intriguing horror games of that year. So it kind of sucks. So despite its obviously mature content and themes, Mouthwashing does not contain pornography, and it does not sexually explicit, which was ostensibly oh my god, why can't I fucking read today? Which was ostensibly the main target for the campaign organized by the advocacy group Collective Shout. Despite the group's declared focus preventing depiction of sexual abuse in games, campaign's impact has been seemingly induce a much broader push to de-risk from all adult content, no matter the subject. So yeah, as I said, they're essentially just carroting the system by making the process of you purchasing these games more difficult, just making the headache on both the user end as well as itch.io's end, where it's just like, we don't want to have to deal with all this, and it's just easier to delist the game or just have it not show up, so that way they can sort of get around it. Like, honestly, probably doing that is probably the most charitable way to get this issue resolved. But I don't know. What do you guys think? Censorship in video games? Let me know in the comment section down below.